and welcome back to the Empowered to Lead podcast. This is a place for people who are therapists and have grown in order to bring a group practice to life, come for information, for support, to know that you are not alone. And through our time together, we are talking about different topics that come up for us as small business owners, medium business owners, and some of the struggles and the celebrations that come along the road. Today, I'm following up on the episode with Jessica Cowling. And Jessica is somebody that I have worked with and then became friends with over the years. I have watched her go from private practice to a quite well-established, well-running employee model group practice. And if you've listened to her episode, you'll have heard a number of different points that come through in our conversation. And we talked about money and how that frees you up. We talked about going from being a people pleaser to being the CEO. And so today we are going to talk a little bit about that, my experience of that, and also just to give you some practical steps for how to move forward if you found yourself identifying with some of the things that Jessica talked about in our last episode. So I have been thinking about how many group practice owners are standing at a crossroads, and you know that something needs to change, but you're not entirely sure where to start. And so that can be when you get to be an established group practice. I would say I hear it primarily when you're either in about year 2 or 3, or you've got about 7 therapists on your team. And it's kind of like, okay, now I need to understand my finances. I want to be able to make better decisions, but I don't know how to do that because nobody taught me that. Or I'm the kind of person that puts my head in the sand, and that's not a skill that I have developed. Or you're realizing that as you're going through the motions of being a group practice owner, there's so many decisions that you're making that are based around, how do I keep this person in my group practice? How do I take care of everybody else around me? And not actually taking care of me as the leader and making sure that this business is sustainable, is profitable, and not just financially, but also mentally and emotionally, and is a healthy return on investment for you as a group practice owner. I can identify with both of these things. So with the finances thing, I think that my experience with money and understanding where we're at financially has gone up and down as a group practice owner. So there are times when I have embraced it and I feel like, yes, I am so confident in this area. And then a learning curve hits, or I really recognize an area that I really don't do well in. So when I started my first group practice with a partner, we had divvied up some of our responsibilities, and I am pretty decent at budgeting and tracking expenses. And so I was in charge of finances. Well, we got in a few months and decided, hey, maybe we'll get a bookkeeper just to come in and look. This feels like it's heavier. There's more to track than we had thought there was. And I come to find out I am not a bookkeeper. And we had to take the time to have somebody come in and really clean up our books. And then I was like, okay, everything's cleaned up. We know what we're doing. I'll take it back. Well, that lasted a couple of months, and I have never done my books since then. I leave that to a professional. What I have found is that when I just leave it to the professional, I am not actually on top of where my numbers are. So whether it was in the group practice with my partner or the one that I had on my own, the one that I'm running, If I am not regularly in there understanding what the numbers mean, I cannot lead with confidence. If somebody says, I want to hire split or I want to do a workshop, what can I charge for it? If I'm in the numbers and on a regular basis, I can say with confidence, this is what the business can handle, or this is what I'm able to offer you. Let's talk about that, as opposed to, I don't know, what do you want kind of thing. And that is not leading with confidence. That's the opposite. So if you are there, I get it. I have been there and know how that feels. And for the people-pleasing side of things, I mean, so many of us are therapists because we care about people. We started in this business because we wanted to help people. We wanted to see them thrive and grow, and that doesn't change for us as group practice owners. And so there have been many times when I have said yes to something because I wanted to take care of somebody in my group practice, rather than really sitting back and going, why are we doing that? Is that actually something that is in alignment with the goals for the practice? Is that something that I actually authentically want to do and can show up to do? So an example of that would be as simple as we planned a summer social event. And I know that it's good for morale. I know that it's something that can be very helpful for other people to feel like they're connected and part of our culture. And it was important to our culture. But that summer was a lot for me. I had a lot of stuff going on with my parents, and there were just a lot of changes going on personally. And so as I was there at that barbecue, I felt a little bit of resentment towards everybody else. They're all having fun. They're all really enjoying it, which, you know, on the one hand is important to me and to who I want to be as a leader. But internally, I realized I was doing that because I was trying to keep everybody else happy, and I was sacrificing myself in the midst of it. And so we don't want to do that. I want to help you find ways to take care of yourself, to know your numbers. And so today we're going to talk through just 4 or 5 short little points that you can put into practice to help protect you, your energy, and to help you show up as the leader that you want to be in your group practice. So first of all, insight alone is not enough. We know this as therapists. And we know that, you know, where are we on that change cycle? Am I willing? Am I able to make some of these changes? And so I might know that I struggle with finances and I need to get a hold of it. But actually taking that step and making these changes can feel overwhelming. I know that I am not paying myself enough, that everybody else in my group practice is making more than me. Or I'm taking care of everybody else. I'm working at 10 o'clock at night and I'm wondering why the hell nobody else recognizes all the work that this takes to be a group practice owner. And yet I don't want to sacrifice them, or I don't want them to leave me if I step up and say, no, I can't do this. And so that insight needs to turn into action and change in order for you to be able to keep doing this. So how are you going to step into growth and turn that insight into change or action? We want to do that with small and intentional steps. Most practice owners don't actually need more information. They need permission and a starting point. How do I get started in this? That, like, my brain knows it, but the emotion, or maybe my emotion knows it, and I actually feel so stuck or so overwhelmed, I don't know what my next step is. So let's talk about 5 practical leadership steps that you can start taking in the next month and move yourself and your group practice forward. So first of all, I want you to name the role that you're actually in. So what is that? Hey, Lisa, I'm the owner of a group practice. you are not just a therapist who owns a practice. You are the CEO. You are the leader. You are the owner, whatever term it is that you want to use to really recognize that this is your business. It's not your identity. And it's also not just like a side gig. It's not a small adventure that you have undertaken. How do you identify with the role of guiding this ship? Some people don't like the term CEO. They've got some negative connotations of what that means. I'm trying to find another word, but really that puts the power into recognizing what role am I stepping into. This is something that took me a little bit of time. It hasn't been as difficult for me as it has been for some others to step into this role. I recognize that people are joining my group practice. They're joining your group practice because they want to be led. Most of us want to know what is the step forward, especially when we're not really entrepreneurial in mindset, especially if you just want to come in and see your clients and go. You want to know how this business is run. And am I free to do that when I join a group practice, which means that you as the group practice owner need to step in. I hear this so often with people who I'm working with is that, but I don't want to be seen as the leader. I don't want to be the boss. I don't want to be that bitchy person because we have our own connotations or because other people are saying they're taking my money from me. I don't want to submit to their leadership. And really, when they step in and go, oh, I am the leader. If I don't make decisions in this group practice, how do we move forward? How do these people get clients? How do they know what the next step is? How do they know if they're being profitable or if they're doing good work? They know that because I am leading. So making some decisions about how am I going to show up? What does it mean? I'm going to pause here. This is your action step for this one. Name the role that you are actually in. Are you a therapist who owns a practice, or are you a CEO and the leader in your practice? And when you put that term, whatever term it is that you want to use, how does that change your relationship with the business? For a number of people that I've worked with, when they have started to change their identity with their group practice, it really helps them step into confidence. Oh, if I am the leader, if I'm the one who is guiding this ship, if I am the CEO, I show up differently. I say, I'm going to listen to your input, and I'm the final word. So write down what being CEO means to you in your practice. Step number 2 that you can take is look at one set of numbers, not all of them. And we come back to some of Jessica's conversations, that understanding numbers, knowing your math and how it makes sense or doesn't make sense just helps you move forward in confidence in leadership skills. And so one of Jessica's favorite sayings is the math is not mathing, or the numbers don't lie. And so when we step into that, a lot of times we're like, okay, I need to look at all of the numbers. So I'm going to give you an example. I took a money course last year and actually took a couple of them. And because I really wanted to get comfortable with numbers, I wanted it to provide me with clarity. But as I took these 2 courses, pretty much at the same time, I got so overwhelmed because everybody's giving me a different spreadsheet. They're explaining the numbers in a different way. And I am telling myself, I need to understand this. I need to know all of the numbers. And it's stressful. I am not a math person. I am not somebody who is super comfortable with numbers. You give me feelings and emotions anytime. You give me how to relate to my team, and I love it. But looking and sitting down and having the wherewithal to sit and look at numbers is a stretch. It's a good stretch, but it's a stretch. And so slow down. Look at one set of numbers to start with. If you just start looking at all these metrics, if you start looking at all of your P&L and your balance sheet and you don't fully understand it yet, it's going to get overwhelmed and you're going to push it aside and avoid it. When I sat down and I had this one spreadsheet somebody had given me for looking at metrics. How do I know what my business is doing on a weekly basis? How many calls are we getting? What's our room utilization? How many cancellations have we had? It was all really good information, and I want to know that about my business, but I wasn't doing it. It was just kind of glossing over. So I started with how many clients are we seeing per week? How many cancellations are there? And how are we handling those cancellations? And once I got really comfortable with that and understanding that, then I was able to add on what are our marketing numbers doing. So what's our return on investment with Google Ads? What's our Google My Business listing doing? How many inquiries are we getting as a result of these marketing efforts? But when I tried to look at all of that at the same time, it was very overwhelming. So my action step for you for this, if you're wanting to start with numbers, is choose one number this month that you're going to look at. Here's 4 suggestions of numbers that could be important for you to know. Look at your owner's pay. How much are you paying yourself in reality, not just when things are going well? Look at your last year. Look at your last month. Are you paying yourself fairly? Really understanding that owner's pay. Or look into your therapist split. What is the amount that you are bringing into your business? What is it covering and what is it not covering? If you look at your budget and you split that between the therapist that you have, are the numbers making sense? Another number that you might choose to look at is your monthly expenses. So I know one therapist that I'm in a group practice owner that I'm talking to quite often. She sat down last fall and looked at all of the subscriptions that they had, all the different technology things. And if she hadn't focused in on that one number, one expense that they were looking at, she wouldn't have really recognized how many things they were paying for. And then with clarity, choose, how does this inform how we want to move forward? Is that cost relative and solving the problem that we thought it was going to? And then another number you might consider is capacity versus revenue. How are we using our rooms? Are we, like if somebody is offering virtual all afternoon on a Tuesday afternoon, but we're saving a room for them, can I put somebody else in that room to maximize revenue? Looking at some of those things can be another option. I am not saying start with all of those. Choose one of those. So one of them could be owner's pay, your therapist split, your monthly expenses, or your capacity versus revenue. You do not need to master all of these things. You need to start getting your eyes on them to give yourself some confidence and knowledge of where your business is at. Another step to take is identifying where you are people-pleasing. This can be hard, but what we do when we are people-pleasing, when we're taking care of everybody else, it leads to burnout and resentment. A couple of years ago, I was definitely in burnout and I didn't know it. I wouldn't have used that name. I went away for a retreat, and while I was there, some of the terminology that others were using and some of the ways that they identified what I was experiencing put that word to it. And I did not like that word. But what I recognized was I was letting my boundaries be walked all over. I was taking care of everybody else. I was putting my identity and my business numbers on other people and keeping them happy. I was bending over backwards to take care of everybody else, and I was suffering. It wasn't just at work. It was at home as well. And with other areas of my life, it tends to seep out into other areas, in case you hadn't noticed that. And I started to resent the people who were working for me. I resented the people who filled up their caseload and just left. What the hell? I spent all that time and money, and I took care of you. I showed you how to build a business, and then you walked away. I resented when I would pay somebody out and they were making way more money than I was at that time. And that is a sure sign of people pleasing, and it builds into burnout. If you are starting to notice some of those things, where are you doing something just to avoid discomfort? And really kind of sitting with that. How does that identify a boundary that you might need to start to revisit or implement in your business? I know that these are a lot of things but I'm going to keep going. There's two more that I want you to consider. I want you to consider, who is your client now? And so I talk about this quite often. When we are starting to build a group practice, we have to see a bunch of clients. A lot of times that is the income coming in. We are the main breadwinner in our business because we built our private practice, and that's how people are finding us. As you start to grow and you bring other therapists on, I would say you have to start switching your mindset so that you go from how many clinical clients can I see to how do I take care of my therapists, because they're the ones that are going to see more clients, and you're reframing. So your therapists become your clients now. The time and the energy that you would have put into preparing for clinic, to your clinician, oh my goodness, the word is your clinical clients. There we go. The time that you would prepare doing that, now you're going to start to put into how are you going to put time and energy and find fulfillment in the team that you are building without pushing your boundaries, without making yourself smaller, and then identify how does that change your mindset, your time use, and where you're putting energy. And then when we come back to that people-pleasing part of it, what do we need most from them as we are the leader? What do we need to look for that is filling in alignment with your mission and your values and where you want this business to look, so that there's clear expectations and boundaries while I am taking care of you? That could be a whole podcast on its own for sure. And the last thing that I want to encourage you on is get support before you're desperate. If you hear some of the things that I am talking about here, where I resented my clinicians, where somebody else used the word burnout, I was exhausted all the time, I really want to encourage you to reach out and get support. That might be through colleagues that you have, whether they're therapists or other group practice owners, people in your life who are not in the business, so that you feel like you're supported. And this is the whole reason why I am here with the podcast, with the different offerings. One of my biggest passions is that you would not feel alone. When we are in private practice, it feels like our world gets small. And when we are in group practice, it feels like our world gets even smaller. We're leading people. We're not on the same wavelength as everybody else around us. We are the CEO. We are guiding this ship. And so you need people around you that can help you. I want you to be one of those numbers that says, I have made a small business work. And so how do we do that? There's a bunch of different ways that are available through Group Practice Network. I have a free Facebook group if you're interested. It's called GPO Network. That's where a bunch of people across Canada as group practice owners are in there answering questions, supporting each other. That's free. We have the Group Practice Connection where we have 3 calls a month. And the biggest reason we have that many calls is so that you know that you aren't alone. Show up, get support from me, from peers. I've got resources and templates so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And really understanding some of the support that you need from peers in some of these ways. I offer individual coaching, and then there's retreats. And I think that's one of the most powerful ways to walk away refreshed, to identify, are you burnt out, to get support in a condensed way that's from peers, to know that you're not alone, and to just get away from your business. So right now there's 2 retreats that are on the go. One is in BC and the other one is in Ontario. And I'm planning one in Costa Rica because I'm such a huge believer in getting away to connect, to disconnect, and to get that practical support. So my support or my encouragement to you for action in this point is to make one intentional move to get support. Join a community, book a consult with me to see what might be the best support for you, and have an honest conversation with a peer if you're feeling like some of these have struck a nerve. In every episode, I try and do a leadership challenge. And so I want to challenge you as a leader today. I'm going to give you 2 options today. Just one. 2 kind of concepts in there. When you're thinking about how you want to step forward in leadership, whether it's with boundaries or if it's with money. Leadership is not about doing more. It's about choosing differently. This week, I want you to pick one leadership decision that you have been avoiding and make that decision. Reflect on what that might be. Don't just jump into it, but also don't expect perfection. You don't need to all of a sudden be the master of that metric that you've chosen. You don't all of a sudden have to have these really clear boundaries in every single area of your group practice. Choose one and make movement in that area. And I really want to hear from you, whether it's something that you heard in the episode with Jessica or something that you've heard here today and is moving you forward as a leader to feel empowered to lead your group practice. I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email, lisa@grouppracticenetwork.ca, and I would love to hear the steps that you take to be more empowered as a leader this week and this month. I look forward to connecting with you again next week. Thanks for hanging out with me on Empowered to Lead, the Therapist Practice. If you're ready for deeper support, I'd love to see you inside the Group Practice Connection, my monthly membership where Canadian therapists like you get coaching, community, and the tools to build a business that actually supports your life. You can check it out at grouppracticenetwork.ca. We're building something great here, and I'm so glad you're a part of it.
This is Michelle Abraham, and we are honored to have Lisa Cowling's Empowered to Lead podcast on our High Vibe Podcast Network. For more shows like hers and to grab your free gift from the gift fold, head on over to highvibepodcastnetwork.com.